and welcome to 2025's first Self-Sufficiency Partner meeting. And as you can tell, I am not Misha, but once upon a time, I suppose I hosted this meeting, but it has grown and become bigger and better. And so I'm here pinch hitting while we figure out who will be the regular host for this get together, where you get a chance to learn what the heck we're up to here in ODHS, more specifically self-sufficiency. But to introduce myself, I'm James Barta. I'm engagement strategies manager with the Oregon Eligibility Partnership. We're the ones who oversee the one system. So all your integrated eligibility needs that ODHS handles. But as the agenda says, please introduce yourself in the chat. It allows us to know who's here and what you do. And so I want to welcome you and thank you for coming. Thank you for your work you do for Oregonians. And just to let you know, we're going to have a lot of talk about summer EBT. I might say a few words about the budget at the end, but our speaker has another meeting that will not be able to attend. So if you're dying for legislative scoops, I'm sorry, we're not going to have that this time around. But summer EBT is a huge, important program that's been a great success. So at the moment, I'm going to hand it over to Catherine Garland to speak about it and introduce her co-workers on this.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. I always get tripped up. The hardest part of this is always making sure that I share the right screen. So, okay, can you all see that kind of like front page summer EBT? Cool. I see Paula's nod. So awesome. Thank you, James, for that warm introduction. My name is Catherine Garland. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a program analyst with the Summer EBT team. And my area of focus is community engagement and expansion. And I have a couple coworkers here, so I'm actually going to pass it to Paula, and then Paula, ask you to pass it to Montana, if you don't mind.
Wonderful. Thank you, Catherine. So I was able to change my name, even though I wouldn't mind being Catherine today, but that's okay. Like I said, I'm Paula Mendoza. I'm an analyst with the SCBT team, and my focus is hearings and rules for the SCBT team. So I find it fascinating, but other people rules, we all laugh around those. So on to Montana.
Hey everybody, I'm Montana Jansens. I'm one of the research analysts for the summer EBT team. I use she, they pronouns, and I am a white person with long blonde hair, and I'm wearing a brown sweater and really adorable cream overalls today. All right, Catherine, I will pass it back to you.
Awesome. Okay, let's see here. So we're going to talk a lot about summer EBT, which is kind of ironic, kind of funny since we're in the coldest part of winter right now. But we're very excited to be here and share a little bit about what happened in 2024 with summer EBT, and then a little bit about what that means for our 2025 year and what we're looking forward to. So for those who aren't as familiar, sometimes I get caught up in realizing this is like the world I live in and have to back up and realize, okay, not everyone knows everything about summer EBT. So we're going to just start from the beginning. Summer EBT, it is an annual grocery benefit program to help families buy food during the summer months when school's out, when that hunger gap is pretty evident for families who maybe rely on school meals to be available during the school year. Then when kids are home over the summer, I know I feel it. Feels like they eat everything out of the cupboards in 2 minutes, and I'm like, where did it all go? So there's quite a hunger gap to cover during those summer months. To give a little bit of context and history, about 10 years ago, Oregon participated in a pilot program called Summer EBT for Children. And that program was the first to really aim to address that hunger gap and provide food assistance to families with children. It was had a very select target audience. It worked with some few specific schools as a pilot just to see, hey, can this work? Can we help to shrink hunger by providing additional supports to families in the way of food and food resources? They provided EBT cards with this pilot program, a fixed benefit amount, and it was for all enrolled children within those pilot schools, regardless of their participation in free or reduced price meals at the time. This early initiative really paved the way until then we hit the pandemic. And most people are more familiar with the pandemic EBT program that emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic to fill those food gaps, those hunger gaps when schools were closed. Pandemic EBT, or PEBT, as it was referred to. It utilized the already existing SNAP technology, so the EBT cards, EBT issuing of food benefits to distribute food directly to families. It adapted to different changes over the course of 6 years. It had different iterations. And it looked like different amounts of money, different populations of kids who are eligible. It kind of ran the gamut in waves of a bunch of different programs until really it was shown that research could show that this was working, that families were being more supported during those times when school meals weren't available. And so the data that came from that, along with lessons learned along the way anecdotally, led to a permanent summer EBT program. It was established through the Consolidated Appropriations Act in December of 2022. And Oregon, along with, I believe, 37, or was one of 37 states in 2024 to stand up this new permanent food program within their self-sufficiency programs. And here we are. That's how I got hired into this position. There's 6 of us on our team. And it was within 16 weeks last spring that this permanent program was stood up. So no small feat. Sometimes I feel like an imposter because I was hired at the very tail end of that really busy 16 weeks. But no small effort, that's for sure. So that's a little bit of context. And I should say that I can't see the chat, so I'm going to count on Montana or James or Paula to let me know if anything's there. So that's the history of summer EBT. School-age children who are part of families that are participating in SNAP, TANF, OHP, identify as migrant, houseless, or runaway, or are have experienced foster care at some point during the school year. Those families are automatically enrolled into the program. They don't need to apply. There are some caveats with that, as you can see the asterisk at the bottom. It is those families who have SNAP allotments that are more than $0 or OHP programs that are under 185% of the federal poverty level. That's just important to note because it certainly created some eligibility confusion for some families this year. Aside from that, school-age children who meet the income requirements for receiving free or reduced price lunches, they may also qualify, but they would need to apply for the program. And then our eligibility workers would determine based on their income, based on the school that they attend, if they would then qualify. So in summer EBT's inaugural year, 2024, benefits were issued to over 360,000 children in Oregon and brought in just over 43 million in grocery benefits to families and into their communities. So quite a big deal. See here. There we are. Just a few quotes on what families said about summer EBT this year. We have a lot of quantitative data, but I always like to include the qualitative data, those quotes. What is community saying about the program when we're looking at the success of a program? And overall, I would say, as you can read here, sentiments of gratitude. Families were very grateful for the additional funds over the summer. There was also, I will say, coupled with gratitude, we heard a lot from families that it wasn't enough. This year, each eligible child received $120 in those food benefits for the entire summer. And as we know, with inflation and cost of food, I mean, when I go to the grocery store and look at the price of produce, I can't deny that it's expensive. So those were some pretty loud sentiments that we heard from families. But overall, straightforward application, maybe took a week or two to get a decision. Very, very grateful. I just want to point out this first one brought tears to my eyes the first time I had read it. The joy on our son's face when we could get him the nutritional food without having to put anything back was amazing. And I could just picture that at the grocery store, a family being in that sort of situation. And when you don't have the funds, that's a really tough thing to tell your children. And so we're grateful that summer EBT was able to close the gap in that way. Some kind of larger program numbers here. In its first year, we had set a goal of serving 350,000 children with these benefits. And then as you can see in the blue box here, we certainly exceeded that. It was quite the celebration from our program when we hit just above the 350,000 mark this summer. But over 350,000 children received summer EBT through streamlined eligibility. That's what we call that automatically qualifying group. So families who are qualified for summer EBT because of their participation in other programs like SNAP or TANF. And then nearly 7,500 approved summer EBT applications also came in 2024. I like to pause here and just note that it's a really unique thing to recruit or to be on the lookout for families who meet the income qualifications for summer EBT and aren't already a part of a lot of these other benefit programs like SNAP or TANF. So we're going to talk a little bit later with Montana's help about who are these applicants. They're a unique demographic of folks who otherwise aren't a part of our other programs within ODHS, but able to engage now through summer EBT in a new way and get the resources they need to them. And then just to give you a landscape of the population density, about 47.6% of children who received summer EBT this year lived in urban areas. Just about 35% live in metro, and then 17.4 are from rural areas across Oregon. And we'll dive into that a bit too. And then an interesting statistic, 42.6% of all children attending school in Oregon received summer EBT in 2024. Thought that was an interesting baseline statistic data point for our first year. It'll be interesting to see in the coming years how that might shift as our program continues to grow. And I'm going to pass it over to Montana.
Right, this is Montana. So I'm going to kind of take us a little bit more into the data side of what our populations look like this year. And so when we're looking at our streamlined eligible children, the folks who are already participating in other programs that give them eligibility in our program, we see that the vast majority of those children are SNAP children, so they're part of a family who participates in SNAP. And that was 164,570 children. So that was about 46.42% of our streamlined eligible population. The next largest group of children is those participating in Medicaid programs, um, with about 38 to 39%. And then we have TANF children, so about 11%, just under 11%. Those identified as being migrant, houseless, or runaway was about 2.17% of our streamline eligible population. Children participating in child welfare was just under 1%. Those who received free or reduced price meals through their schools was about 0.5%. And then those enrolled in Head Start programs was 0.08% or 287 children. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. And then on the other side of things, if we look at our applications, we received just over 14,000 applications this year. 7,498 of them were approved and 6,692 were denied. Of those that were approved, all of them were approved because of income of those families. So they were at or below 185% of the federal poverty level. And then if we look at our denied applications, the vast majority were over the qualifying income levels. And then we also had some denials for children who were not enrolled in a qualifying school, so a school that doesn't participate in the National School Meals Program, or free and reduced price meals program, excuse me, or kids who weren't enrolled in school at all during the 23-24 school year. And then we also saw that some applications were being submitted for children who are outside of our age range. So our program serves children who are between 6 and 18 or considered school aged within the state of Oregon. And we were having applications submitted for mostly kids who were younger than school aged. All right, next slide, please. This one I'm going to hand back to Catherine.
Hey,
Thank you.
hey, Montana,
Yes.
just a question on that previous screen, was some of that 6,000, the denials, I forgot to ask you earlier, duplicates that we issued out with SNAP and TANF? So it was like they were a duplicate, they'd already received benefits with one of our other programs because they were categorical, that's a tough word for me, eligible.
Yeah, this is Montana. So that those were pulled out of this data set before we made these graphs, and they were categorized as something else as being duplicate applications. So these are actually applications that were denied for cause. Thanks for asking.
Great. Thanks, Montana.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think this is back over to me. This is Catherine. So thank you, Montana. So now this I just wanted to point out and show kind of a geographical view of the same data we were just talking about, the approvals and the denials. And I wish that I could pull the green off the screen so that you could see the overlay of the red and where it all scatters. But basically, if I did, imagine I did take that big conglomeration of green off the screen. Basically, where you're seeing those big conglomerations of green, red is pretty well marked evenly under it, as evidenced by our denials and our approvals are pretty close to 50-50. But what I thought was interesting here is you can really see the I-5 corridor where that mass population of our summer EBT recipients come from. You do see some scattering along the coast, Southern Oregon, that Bend area, a little bit in the Eastern Oregon area. But what this showed us, or at least started to allude to, is an underrepresentation in those rural and outlying communities. We're going to dig even further in just a moment into that. But this is our first view of, there's some missing pieces here. Where are we not seeing folks? So kind of got our brains turning and thinking about that in terms of outreach. And then the opportunity that we started to see in that is there is for 2025 and beyond, there's an opportunity to engage further with community partners in those rural, less metro areas, and see how we can reach more families that we believe would qualify if they knew about the program and did apply or participated in our other programs. Okay, let's see, next slide here. This is going to go back to Montana.
Yeah, this is Montana. So when we were looking at our participation rates per county in all of the counties in Oregon, we started seeing some spaces for opportunity for outreach and connection. And so on this slide, you see a bar graph that has all of the Oregon counties across the horizontal axis, and then percentages across the vertical axis or up the vertical axis. And the blue bars are the percentage of the total population that received summer EBT benefits this year. And then we have an orange line that is represents the percentage of children who are age 17 and below, who are identified as being at 100% or below of the federal poverty level. So these would be all children who would be eligible for our program on that orange line. And when you start looking at the top of the blue bars in comparison to where the orange line is, you start seeing opportunities for outreach or opportunities for connection with these communities and these populations in these geographical areas in these counties. So the larger the gap between the top of the blue bar and the start of the orange line, the more opportunity there is for outreach in those counties. All right, next slide, please.
I'm curious on that slide, if you go
Sure.
back, like for instance, Morrow County, the blue bar is a little higher than the orange line. What does that mean?
Yes, thank you for pointing that out, James. So the orange line represents children who are at or below 100% of the federal poverty level, and our program's eligibility is at or below 185%. And so ideally, we would see the blue bars all exceeding the orange line. And in these counties, this data shows that we are exceeding the orange line, but maybe not quite enough even for the percentages that these both represent.
Yeah, at first blush, it's like, oh, there's some correlation, but then you see some big exceptions, like Wheeler County really jumps out.
Yeah.
And to note on this real quick, Montana, as she was explaining, I realized it may be important to point out that finding some of this data can be really challenging to compare apples to apples. So 2021 was the latest data we could find to compare children within the same age range within the same county. So there is also a little bit of discrepancy between probably 2021 and where we're at now, but it was our best shake at apples to apples here.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that clarification, Catherine. It's really helpful to understand where your data is coming from and like know what you're actually looking at. Okay, so on this slide, we've taken those differences, the tops of the blue bars up to the orange bars, or the orange line on the previous slide, and quantified them into percentage numbers, and then also plotted them on a graph. So on the left-hand side of this slide, you'll see a table that has all of the Oregon counties in it. Their population densities, so if they're rural, urban, or metro, and then their outreach opportunity percentage. So how large is the percentage of children who could be eligible but who have not participated in the summer EBT program? And they're color-coded for every county that is rural is colored green, every county that is urban is colored blue, and every county that is metro is colored orange. So if you're looking now at the bar graph that's on the right-hand side of this slide, We have the counties across the horizontal axis, and then the outreach percentage, outreach opportunity percentage on the vertical axis. And we see that a vast majority of our highest outreach opportunity percentage counties are rural counties, which is a really great way to like visually represent what most of us in our work have an understanding or a feeling of. So we wanted to look at the data and see what the data said to us. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so now we've taken those outreach opportunity percentages, and we've put them on a map of Oregon. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a map of Oregon with all of the counties outlined, and they are colored in various shades of blue, ranging from dark blue to light gray, depending on how much outreach opportunity they have been found to have. So our top outreach opportunity counties are Wheeler County, Grant County, Lincoln County, Coos County, and Curry County. And it's worth also noting that even though some of these counties are light gray, so they look like they might not have a lot of outreach opportunity in them, as Catherine pointed out a few slides ago, we were comparing 100% or below the federal poverty level in these counties. So our program is 185% or below. And so there's still a lot of opportunity for outreach in these counties, even though they might have what we would consider less, according to this data. All right, I'm gonna pass it off to Catherine.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I was so excited when Montana showed me this for the first time. Because at least in my line of work of outreach and community engagement, it is pretty challenging to quantify outreach and outreach opportunity. And so so this is kind of, I mean, it's great baseline data for year one that we can compare by year to year after. But also it gives us a starting place to be able to dig even deeper into zip code based data and get even more granular into, well, what specific areas within the county might there be families that we want to focus our efforts going to events in those areas, or partnering with community partners that are focused in those specific areas. So it gives us really a guide map for what we're doing versus kind of just shooting blankly looking at, you know, what events are happening in the state. Let's go to this or that. This gives us a guidepost to say, we really believe that the families that would be qualified for our program are likely housed within these areas. So pretty cool on that. And then to shift a little bit, we're going to talk about benefit usage. I know James has seen this slide before in a different meeting, but benefit usage is another way that we can look at how are we engaging with community? Are we doing it well? Are we not? Besides who's just receiving summer EBT, we want to look at who's using their summer EBT benefits. So this shows how benefit usage breaks down by category of how a family became eligible for summer EBT. So you'll see across the bar graph here, there are the different eligibility categories of what made a child eligible. Were they a part of a family who qualified because they were on SNAP, Medicaid, TANF? Categorical eligibility represents those identified as migrant, houseless, or runaway. Household income below 185 represents those who applied and were approved for benefits. Did they participate and receive summer EBT through participation in child welfare programs? They receive free or reduced price meals at school. Were they enrolled in a qualified Head Start? And then eligibility worker override is kind of a funny little, actually, Montana, do you want to explain that one? I never explain it quite right, I feel.
Yeah, sure. This is Montana. So the eligibility worker override cases, because this data was pulled during the middle of our program, they're cases that had something that was not processed correctly about them. And so they were categorized as being approved through an eligibility worker override because an eligibility worker had to touch the case and had to manually approve it. And when we visualize our data, it's one of the things that then gets considered as being an eligibility determination. So that's why that one looks kind of silly over there. All right, back to you, Catherine.
Thank you. So what's really interesting to me on this data set is you notice quite a discrepancy when you look on the left half of the bar graph versus the right. The left half is showing a lot more higher percentage of the light blue, which represents that all of the summer EBT benefits were used up to this point. And thanks for pointing that out, Montana. This data is as of August 31st. So our program launched June 28th. Our program closed September 30th. So we were able to obtain this data close to the end of our program year. And unfortunately, we weren't able to obtain it again from our contracted partner yet. So this is what we have. But based on this, what we were seeing is even a few months into the program, SNAP families and TANF families, even families who qualified through application, Medicaid, yeah, they used a lot of their benefits, which makes sense when you think about SNAP families and TANF families. Their benefits, SNAP and TANF, already load onto an EBT card. When summer EBT loads on, it loads onto the same card. When they spend their SNAP or summer EBT benefits, summer EBT is used first because we have a shorter window of expiration. Summer EBT benefits do expire after 122 days. So we wanted to really prioritize using those ahead of SNAP, which has a much longer window before expiring. So those categories, those groups use their benefits well. What we see though on the right hand of the screen is those who maybe aren't as used to using EBT cards, those who enrolled in or were eligible for summer EBT because they were involved in child welfare or identified as migrant, houseless, runaway, enrolled in Head Start. There's a large percentage, as you can see, that dark blue, that did not use their benefit or didn't use most of their benefit as of August 31st. This was pretty glaring to us because it's one thing if they receive the benefit, but if they're not using it, is it really helping the family? So we enacted a few outreach strategies as soon as we saw this to reach out to our McKinney-Vento liaisons within schools. They work directly with those families identified as migrant, houseless, or runaway, working with partners within child welfare, family navigators to try to get the word out to families of, hey, do you need a new card? Do you need help accessing the card? Is it an education opportunity for us to teach you how to use an EBT card? Did we get returned mail from you? Just trying a whole host of ways to support those families once we realized, ooh, there's quite a few who may not be used to using an EBT card and there might be an education gap or there's some reason why they may not have used them all. So this is something we're going to continue to analyze into 2025 and keep an eye on to see if we can shrink that gap between recipients and then those who are using the benefit. And we're getting to our last few slides here. Thank you all for listening in on us. So a little bit more on outreach. So by the numbers, we did a lot of things outreach related this year, especially with the short runway being a new program. We scattered ourselves across the state as best we could, attending 14 in-person events. We hosted 2 webinars to the general community, had very large attendance from different partners as well as families and community members. Internal presentations to our own ODHS staff to make sure that they were informed and aware of the program, eligibility requirements, being able to answer questions to families who might call or come into the storefront offices and asking questions. And then we did a whole host of presentations to external partner groups who have influence into the spaces where families are engaging with 211 Network, the Alliance of YMCAs, Alliance of Camps and Day Camps, and a few others I'm sure that are slipping my mind. But what we found through those outreach efforts is, again, there's an opportunity for more rural engagement and partnership into rural communities with agencies and community partners. We also found that most families, again, were aware of summer EBT, but there were a lot of question marks after that. And understandably, given what I shared about the history, different iterations of pandemic EBT, summer EBT have happened over several years. Who qualified changed over the years, which raised a lot of questions for families this year. Whether they qualify, if they'd already received the benefit and they didn't know, if they needed to apply, how to apply. And then schools considered CEP, which stands for Community Eligibility Provision. Real quick on this. If a school has at least 25%, if a school has determined that at least 25% of their enrollment is at 185% of the poverty level or below, the whole school can be considered a CEP school, which means that free meals are available for the whole school. We see that a lot across the state. I think there's maybe only about 60 schools that aren't CEP. But why that can be confusing is we had a lot of families who said, well, my kid receives free or reduced price meals at school. Why didn't I qualify for summer EBT for them? And that's because they may not have met the income requirements for summer EBT, though their school has met at least 25% of the school, kind of kicked them over the edge so that the whole school received that the free meals all year. It didn't necessarily apply to summer EBT because we're looking at each individual family income. So there's some education and opportunities for clearer messaging next year that we're already working on. And then the other piece, a key finding is and it seems intuitive, but it wasn't until we did it that we realized when we partner with free food events, when we go as summer EBT and we table at an Oregon Food Bank free food event or a free food market, or in Roseburg, we have a First Thursday resource event that provides free food. Those seem to be the most rich engagement opportunities for us because the audience is already there. Those who are looking for more food resource would come to our table. We could help them apply and answer their questions and just attracting the right audience in that way. So we're looking into more of those events, specifically in rural areas next year. And we talked a little bit about this. I won't touch too much on this, but combining our message with additional free food resources is going to be really strategic for us next year. We heard families, summer EBT is great. We would love more. And while we are doing our best to influence, the feds into, hey, can it be more than $120 until that point where it is increased? We're gonna combine messaging with double up food bucks, allowing folks to use their summer EBT dollars at food markets or places that take the honor double up food bucks so that they can double the amount that they can get with their EBT benefits and programs like that. We are looking into some grant funding to increase our promotional strategy and quote unquote swag to be able to get more information into the hands of families. Maybe some magnets that have the summer EBT QR code, just keeping us in mind for folks each year. And then continuing to grow our partnerships with like organizations or statewide organizations that have a similar focus so that we can continue to streamline our message to the families who are most in need of those food benefits. Lastly, this is our last slide, some information about 2025. So applications are actually available now. So the 2025 application is open and it's on our website for download. Closer to the end of the springtime, we're going to launch back up our online application. But for now, if families wanted to get ahead of the curve and apply now, they can do so. And then they could just email it to our inbox. We'll hold that securely until, again, later on towards May, when we're looking at relaunching the program. We're going to be re-looking at automatic eligibility, and we will look at the eligibility for those applications at that time. And then for partners, for you all, we are working on some updated outreach materials for 2025. So you can expect to see those on our website probably by late March. Some new flyers, FAQs, social media toolkits, and we'll also be sending that out through the listserv here and through some different other email partner groups that we have. But if you have any questions, you can always reach us by our email box here. And I can also leave my email into the chat too if there's any specific questions. But that kind of opens it up for any questions that you all have. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see you all.
David has his hand up.
Hey all, this is David Whelan, he, him pronouns at Partners for Hunger Free Oregon. Maybe I'll start by saying the benefit of talking with advocates across the country about summer EBT programs, and I feel really convinced that Oregon ran one of the best programs in the country, and with all of the challenges that Congress and USDA put into this program, I hope you feel really proud, and I appreciate the deeper reflection on what you're learning from last year as well, and want to change in your outreach and implementation. A couple questions or just thoughts to add to this. I know you all have not only done geographic analysis, but some analysis around sort of language access and results, which I think folks in this community would be really interested in hearing about as well. If you have more time or ability to share about that, I think folks would be really curious to see that. Catherine, you shared that you don't have info yet on things like expungement rates, but I do think that's one of the really key measures of success for this program. And I'm excited and curious to see where that goes. This is obvious, but the benefits just aren't useful if people don't have the confidence to use them. And seeing like which communities in Oregon use those benefits will be, I think, one of our growth opportunities for the program. So excited to hear more about this whenever you get more data. And thanks so much for your work in building this program.
Yeah, thank you, David. I appreciate that. And I think what we could probably do is for like language access, we have those slides that I know David in another space that we were able to share. We could include those definitely as like an appendix to this slide deck as we send it out. And I could not agree more about the expungement data and looking at that benefit usage. It's been a pretty frustrating challenge trying to get that data, though we were able to get, our benefit usage data as of end of August. Yeah, we are working on the back end to see how we can get that, because I agree that's a really good indicator, especially geographically, of maybe underrepresentation or underuse in specific areas. So thank you for noting that. And if and when we do, I'm going to say when we do, we will certainly be finding those spaces to share that out.
I do want to share a shout out for our great team. Is we got a report after the first expungement coming up, is we got on the phones and started calling individuals who did not use the benefits, and was like, hey, this is what's going on, this is your time frame. And a lot were the ones I got, because I did the higher volume, was I thought it was fraud. I thought it was a scam. And then they're like, oh my goodness, send me a card. And we gave access to that. So we were really trying to be proactive about our expungement list. So shout out to the team for that.
And I just have to highlight Paula. Yesterday, 2 days ago, we had one individual must have been one of the very last applications to be approved because their expungement date was this week. And they were inquiring through our email box saying, hey, like, I haven't gotten my card, or I need a card. Do I still have benefits? And we looked and they had 1 day to use their benefits. And Paula probably spent the majority of her day making sure that that individual was able to get to an office, that the office knew, the situation, could get the card. And I believe, Paula, you said that that individual did end up using their benefit that evening, like within hours of getting their card. So yeah, it's a pretty big commitment for our whole team, but shout out to Paula, especially this week.
Thanks, Catherine. It's definitely a team effort. Really, truly.
David, thank you for speaking up and giving some context of the work. It's been really spectacular work that this team has done. I know I attended some early meetings and I was like, I'm not needed, these guys, but they're doing great. But thank you for that presentation. We're looking forward to updates. And yeah, and definitely thank you, Marcia, for putting that in the chat. Absolutely. Take a look at that. And so sorry about the lack of legislative session update. Like I said, Maria had a conflicting meeting, couldn't attend, but our next meeting will be during session. So I'm sure we'll have some comments about that. And going forward, this meeting is going to be a little different. And so as always, though, you should not hesitate. If you have ideas or topics you want to cover, let us know. And I'm putting some emails in the chat, my email, but also we have 2 support people who have been helping with this meeting who do amazing work. And they're going to be, I may continue pitch hitting. I'm not sure. We're still figuring that out, but they're definitely going to be supporting this meeting. So you can email me, you can email them, you can email us all. If you have something you want to present about or a topic you want explained, this meeting is for you to do that. So don't be shy. We're getting paid by taxpayer money, so we're responsive to you. So we want to make sure that we cover the topics that you want. And so with that, I don't have any other things to add. Does anyone else have any thoughts that they were thinking about saying earlier, but just needed a moment to say? Okay, that was about as long as I could last without saying anything. But if you have anything, like I said, you have our emails there, and please feel free to reach out to us. We'll continue to make this meeting responsive to you, whoever's going to be facilitating it. And thank you for all your work. Melanie, did you want to say something?
Hi. I was just wondering if there was going to be another venue for getting some legislative updates. Another meeting planned or
I know that has been done in the past. I'm not sure right now is the answer, but we'll find out, and I'll send it out with the notes and let you know.
okay. I'm always looking for the cliff notes,
Yeah, it's true. So yeah, too bad the AIs don't summarize this legislation as quickly overall, but we'll see.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Have yourself a good rest of the day and to a good new year for all of us.